as for today, I'm going to go ahead and make a couple confessions that you can pray me through. And I just want you to help me. And you can start off by looking at your neighbor and say, neighbor, please hang in there with Pastor. He ain't got nothing left. He ain't got nothing left. Man, I was preaching and I had to teach in Los Angeles on Friday. And it wore me out. And got on a red eye 10:30. Got home in the afternoon yesterday. Had a middle of the night layover. And sometimes when you pour it out, it takes time. So a couple times at 8 o'clock service, they were so gracious. They helped me with amen. So you could do the same thing. Because a few times I had to tell them I don't know where it is, but it's in there. So hopefully I'll do better with y'all. You'll find me in Daniel chapter 3. We'll join each other there in a minute. But I want to talk to you about what the survey says. The survey says we all take surveys in different ways. Some of us, in fact, would declare we're over-surveyed. You can't even buy a product online without, after the shopping cart being filled and you checking out, them sending you a survey, an email. How was that experience? Amen. It's getting to a point where it gets annoying. You can, well, maybe me, y'all don't get annoyed, but I just press delete. I don't want to fill out no survey. You go to the mall, especially during the holiday season, you see the little people with the boards, right? You can't even shop in peace. They're walking up with a little clipboard, a little pen, asking to give you a survey. And that wasn't on your agenda that day to go shopping and fill out a survey, but yet they put it in your face. And many of us in the workplace, we have surveys. They're filling out surveys on employee satisfaction and do y'all like the break room? And, what do you think about this new slogan? And we get surveyed about everything. But here's the thing. You need to understand that surveys are intended to find out your opinion, and not necessarily to draw some conclusions, but they're really your opinion on what you feel, how you think about something. And that's really what they do. Surveys draw out where people stand. Whether it's a survey on an issue, where do you stand? If they survey you about politics, it's where do you stand on this issue? If you're surveyed about a product or service, where do you stand on it? So surveys kind of draw you to the surface and draw to your surface, where do you stand on an issue? And you got to be careful. We got to be careful because there's surveys everywhere. But there's a particular survey that you all will face, and if you have not faced it, keep on living. There will be a survey at a moment in your life, and this survey will be straight from hell. It will be from the devil. And the devil, too, wants to draw to the surface your opinion and where you stand. Where do you stand? You say, what, preacher? What you mean when I stand? On anything concerning God. Where do you stand? The devil is going to give you a survey, and you may not have had this yet, but there have been seasons in my life when I was praying on some things, believing God for some things, and yet on the one side of my mind, I'm believing and hoping for some things, but on the other side, I'm being surveyed. There are questions. Oh, man, y'all too spiritual. Maybe y'all never been there, but some of us have been there where right after you get up off your knees praying, God, will you move? God, I believe. I lift my hands to you. Right after, and some of y'all got on your knees and y'all got old school with it. Y'all went on back down to the clay hills of Georgia and you were praying, Father, in the name of Jesus, God, if you would move on my situation, I know, Lord, that you're going to plead the blood all over my family. I plead the blood all over my children. And you did all that, and when you got up, you still had a survey. Because the devil asked you a simple question. You really believe all that? Am I talking to anybody in here today? Be careful. Careful how you answer that. Be careful if you answer that. Be careful how you answer. Be careful to determine if you should even answer the devil's survey. So you got to write that down. Satan has a survey. Satan has a survey. Satan has a survey. And the question is, should you take it? And if you do take it, what should you answer? If the devil has a survey, what box do you check? Look at Daniel chapter 3. I want to show you some people of God in a survey situation. And they're being surveyed. And we're going to learn from how they handle this, maybe whether we should take it, and if we should, how we should answer it. A lot of verses here. New King James, Daniel chapter 3. Stick with me if you can. Verse 13. Then Nebuchadnezzar, in rage and fury, gave the command to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So they brought these men before the king. Nebuchadnezzar spoke, saying to them, is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods or worship the gold image which I have set up? Somebody write down question number 1. Is it true? Is it true? I mean, you know, no matter what you believe, what season you're in, that the devil's going to ask you a question. You believe that? Is it true? What you claim you stand for, is it true? Yeah, that's what's going on. You can write Q1 right there. The reason I'm telling you to write that, because in the 8 o'clock service, I told you I was tired. I forgot that verse. I was looking for the question. And I said, there's a question. And they were looking at me for the question. I said, it's in verse, well, I don't know, it's somewhere in there. So now we know. Is it true? Y'all got that? Okay. Verse 15. Now, if you are ready, at the time you hear the sound of the horn, the flute, the harp, the lyre, the psaltery, and symphony, with all kinds of music, and you fall down and worship the image which I have made, then good. But if you don't worship, shall be cast immediately into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. And who is the God who will deliver you from my hands? Somebody write question number 2. Number 1, you believe this? Is this true? Number 2, and who's going to deliver you? We ain't talking about who's going to deliver you from just getting disciplined in the classroom because you didn't bring your homework. We're talking about who's going to deliver you from a fiery furnace. That's a particular set of problems. Who's going to deliver you? Who's going to deliver you from the trouble you in? Who's going to deliver you when the heat get hotter? Let me go back over to question number 1. Survey question number 1. Is it true that you're going to stick with God? Is that true? You sold out, huh? So you're not going to worship my God? You're not going to worship? You're not going to listen to my music? You're not going to? I'm going to give you a chance now. I'm going to play the music. Now, when you hear the music, you hear the sound, you notice how the enemy try to twist all of God's instruments of praise. And you hear the psaltery, you hear the lyre, you hear the flute, all the stuff that David played. When you hear all the stuff David played, when you hear all that stuff, I'm going to give you a chance to serve a false God. Is it true you're going to keep serving your God? Now, careful. Question number 2. And if you choose to serve your God, who's going to deliver you from the fiery furnace? Who going to get you out of this mess you in? When the heat get on. See, it's easy. Who going to get you out of it when you get in it? You know, it's easy. Y'all know it's easy. It's easy to have a word for your neighbor. Oh, that's the easiest thing in the world. It's easy to look at your neighbor when they're in the furnace of unemployment and go and lift their head and go, hang in there, my brother or my sister. God is going to move in your... We all prophets then. I speak it over your life. God is going to move. But what about when you unemployed? Is it true? Will he speak it? Will you speak it over your own life? Will you get shaky in the worship? Will you question in that moment when the devil starts questioning, and who going to get you out of this situation? Did Nebuchadnezzar say that? He represents the enemy. And who going to deliver you from this fiery furnace? It's easy when somebody else's mama dying or have died to go lift your head. You know, the Lord brings us all to a better place. She's with the Lord. Just have peace. We praise God because God's a healer, and sometimes he doesn't move the way we want, but he heals divinely. But what about when your mama on the hospital bed? Where's that divine healing then? Is it true? Oh, what is it true? What about when somebody else is sick? We all got the prophetic word, the strength of God. God's going to raise you up from this. I pray over you right now. I plead the blood. And I'm not, all that's good. But when they say you have cancer, that's what Nebuchadnezzar getting at. Who's going to deliver you from your furnace? See, right now we ain't talking about your neighbor's furnace. He ain't say Shadrach and Abednego. Who going to deliver them other Jews? No, who going to deliver you? Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, who going to deliver you? And if that is the case, here's the response. That is the case. No, notice. There are 3 ways you can take a survey, 3 answers. There's a yes, there's a no, and there's a blank. There's yes, there's no, and there is I'm not giving you yes, no. Notice the question number 1, is it true? There was no answer. The Hebrew boys didn't say anything. So that's called a blank. They left that one blank. Notice the second question, and who gonna deliver you? They left that one blank. Here's the first time they say anything, and it doesn't necessarily answer the first 2 questions, but it does present a predicament for the devil. It says, verse 17, if that is the case, if what is the case? Well, if you're going to throw me in the fiery furnace, if that's what you're going to do, well, that's what you're going to do. Now I'm going to go in the fiery furnace. Our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us from your hand, O king. But if not, let it be known to you, O king, that we do not serve your gods, nor will we worship the gold image which you have set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar was full of fury, and expression on his face changed towards Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He spoke and commanded that they heat the furnace 7 times more than it was usually heated. And he commanded certain mighty men of valor who were in his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and cast them into the burning fiery furnace. Then these men were bound in their coats, their trousers, and their turbans, and their garments, and they were cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Therefore, because the king's command was urgent and the furnace exceedingly hot, the flame of the fire killed those men who took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, notice how many times in one passage they keep mentioning those 3 names. That's for a reason. The Bible don't make mistakes. It shows you the intestinal fortitude they had, that their names were worthy of recalling, so we would never forget how they stood. And it says that they fell down. These 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down, bound into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Then King Nebuchadnezzar was astonished, and he rose in haste and spoke, saying to his counselors, did we not cast 3 men bound up into the fire? They answered and said, O king, true, O king. He still got questions, but he about to get an answer. Look, he answered his own question. And he answered, I told y'all, he answered his own question. I see 4 men, none of them bound, walking in the midst of the fire, and they are not hurt, and the form of the 4th is like the Son of God. Can I draw you to Ephesians chapter 4, verse 27? See, because here's the problem. I told you Satan has a survey, but some of y'all got too many answers. You're trying to talk to the devil too much. Ephesians 4:27. The Hebrew boys didn't give an answer. Question number 1, is it true? Mom's word. Question number 2, who gonna deliver you? I ain't. Well, if you go ahead and do that, here's what my response going to be. But I'm not going to entertain a conversation with you over this. Ephesians 4:27, Paul gives it to us this way. And do not give the devil a foothold, the NIV says. New King James may say, and don't give place to. A foothold means don't let him get in the door. You know, if you try to close the door and someone sticks their foot in it, that's called a foothold. Enough just to wedge the door open. Some of us have our minds too wedged open by the enemy. He's got a foot right in the crevice of your mind, trying to stop you from growing in faith, because the devil knows that the only way you're going to grow is to have to go through something. He knows it. He knows that you can't call God a deliverer unless you get in the fire and God bring you out. You're trying to run from the fire, and the devil knows that the fire will prosper you. So he agrees with you, run from the fire, because I don't want to see God move in your life. God. I want you to get out. I don't want you to get burned either. Because if you get in that fire and God move, you're going to have some power. You're going to believe a whole nother level. Some of us are cooperating with the devil too much. Taking survey after survey after survey. Praying with all that doubt. See, if you're going to be a believer, write this down. You must have faith. Period. And some of you are losing heart because you're taking too many surveys from the devil. And you need to be more like the Hebrew boys and just give them a blank stare. And when he start asking questions, you don't have to feel like you got to answer. Some of y'all got mixed up. And you got mixed up because you look at it and you go, well, Jesus took a survey. The devil surveyed him too. Matthew chapter 4. I know, I read the text. And Jesus went fasting for 40 days and 40 nights. Yeah. Satan asked him questions. And Jesus did answer his questions. Every time Satan asked a question, Jesus said, well, it is written. And I got the revelation. I got the text. I preached before. You ought to give a word to the devil. Tell the devil it's written. You know, hold on to the word. Every time the devil talk, hold on. But there's some questions you don't need to talk to the devil about. And I'm going to give you one right now. When the devil tries to turn you against God, when the devil tries to get you to bow down to something false, a figment of the imagination from hell, when the devil tries to work wickedness into your life, you don't even need to answer them questions. When the devil tries to ask you about what God gonna do, you don't even need to answer them questions. When the devil try to ask you, is it true? Do you know? You don't even, he try to get you to doubt what you've been taught your whole life, doubt what you know to do, get you to give up on prayer, get you to keep your hands down and not lift your hand up. You don't even need hand no questions. Hebrew voice said in verse 17, if that's the case, in other words, let me translate. Man, y'all could do whatever you want to do with this little furnace. Another translation would be, so? How many of y'all ever said so to the devil? Some of y'all too scared. I'm going to prove it to you in Luke 18. Watch this. Luke 18, y'all know that's when Jesus says, verse 1, then he spoke a parable to them. Right? You remember that part? It says that men ought always pray and not lose heart. So the tension, I love this. The tension is between your prayer and your heart. What the text presents to us is that if we be praying, we should not be losing heart. So then the question becomes, if we're losing heart, have we been praying? Whatever that gibberish is y'all been doing. If you going downhill as you talking, is it praying in the first place? Because the text says, man ought always pray, which is continually, always being a word of continuity. One should always in continuity talk to the Lord, and that conversation with God should strengthen one to never go down the slope. If I'm going down the slope, am I praying in the first place? Am I losing heart? Meaning I had heart when I started. But the longer, oh God, the longer God don't answer this prayer. Some of us need to stop trying to hold God hostage in our prayers too. That's why some of us not getting God to answer. We praying like terrorists. Threatening God, watch this, it won't come out your mouth, but in the recesses of your mind, I'm about to expose the devil, how he surveys you. The devil's surveying you while you talking to God. Some of you are battling thoughts while you praying, and the thoughts you are battling go against God and everything you've been taught. Out of your mouth come the words of faith, but in your mind while you praying are questions. There are question after question after question. You can't even get through the prayer. Sometimes you ever stumble and mix up the prayer because the question interfused with the prayer. Oh, y'all ain't spiritual enough yet then. Keep on living. You'll get to the level where you have to do that. Where the devil will invade your prayer language, your words, and some of what's on your heart wrestling with becomes in the prayer. And you got to stop praying because you get confused. The devil calls you to lose heart. In other words, prayer is a test of faith. But you never heard that before. Prayer is a test of your faith. By this text, because you ought to always be doing it and fight against the loss of heart. But the only way you're going to lose heart, keep taking that survey then. Keep talking to the devil. Keep giving place to the devil and keep trying to pray and see what happens. You will lose heart. If you got one conversation, believer, you got to choose one. Who are you going to talk to? God or the devil? Even in that passage of Luke 18 and verse 8, Jesus ends that passage and says, nevertheless, when the Son of Man comes, will he really find faith on the earth? He's questioning the quality of our faith. Where you find faith? The Hebrew boys bring me into a wrestle for my whole faithful walk because they expose in me an immaturity of faith that I have walked with for years. That only recently have I realized I ain't got what they got. Now, that shouldn't be alarming to anybody because even in Alcoholics Anonymous, until you admit you're alcoholic, you can't be helped. See, here's where I am. Here's where I am. See, in the New Testament, there's that passage where that gentleman says to the Lord, Lord, I believe, but help me with my unbelief. I got that revelation. I'm good with that one. Oh, I have prayed that one a lot. But I've grown from there. But I'm stuck somewhere in between, Lord, I believe. Help me with my unbelief. And Daniel chapter 3, verse 17. Because Daniel chapter 3, verse 17 tells me there's a maturity of faith that operates in 3 dimensions. How many of you know God likes to operate in threes? 3 is the number of agreement. They work together as one in unison and congruity. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. God operates in 3s. The perfect truth of God is in 3s. And you'll see that 3 dimension of faith and maturity that I aspire to, that the Hebrew boys had in the midst of their situation is verse 17. God, I love your word. And he says, they said, if that's the case, That's the case. That's the case. I love this one. Our God whom we serve, he's able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace. Somebody say he's able. You ought to write that down. God's able. Oh, God's able. How many know he's able? Oh, look, all the churchy folks come on. Oh, he's able. He's able. Careful. That's only level number one. You just becoming saved at that level. That's right after salvation to believe he's able. He's able to forgive and cleanse us from all of unrighteousness. He's able. That's that salvation level faith. That's that outer court faith. The tabernacle even has 3 dimensions. Outer court, inner court, holy of holies. Our God operates in 3s. So he's able is just the outer court. How about we move into the inner court? And not or. It's not an option here. And he will. Oh, how many know the Lord will? Oh, that's another level of faith now. He's able. He's able. That's his ability. I know he can do it. God is able. Ooh, that's a little more mature now. We're in the inner court now. I believe he will. Watch this. Not even I believe he will. More affirmative. He will. How many of us in the face of a sickness can look at it and go, he will? Oh, I know somebody been there. He will. I told you last week about my heart failure. I had to get to the point where, see, I got this revelation too. I got this revelation. I lived this out when my heart failed. I got to. He will. I got there. I got to the inner court. How many know there's a 3rd dimension of God? There's the Holy of Holies. There's another level. There's another level. And this is the one I aspire to. I am on the mountain walking up with God on this journey. I'm trying to get on that mountaintop. I'm trying to go higher. As the song said, fill me up. I want to go higher. I want to get more full. Man. He said, verse 18, they said, but if not. Oh, how many of y'all? See, y'all tell the truth. You know you ain't there. See, I told you some of us want to hold God hostage. Our prayers are like, he's able, he will, but if he don't, I ain't going to church no more. Let's keep it real now. If he don't, I'm going to stop praying. Let me keep on praying and God don't move. See what happens. This prayer ain't working. I ain't worshiping no more. What I'm going to church for? Church ain't doing nothing for me. Oh, I'm preaching now. I don't need no amens now. The Lord's pat me right on my back. Go ahead, son. Preach, boy. How many of us can get to the maturity of faith in our prayers and our petitions to go get to release God? Oh my. Did you hear what I just said? To release God from our terrorism, our hostage taking. Release him from having to do it. Woo. To let God off the hook. And not even blame him for the results. Oh God. The only way you can be like the Hebrew boys is to have predetermined before whatever furnace comes that my relationship with God will dictate my response to the devil. The devil's response to me will not dictate my relationship with God. I believe God is able. I believe God will. But even if he don't, he ain't got to do nothing. He ain't got to do nothing. He God. Look, you got to take my mother, my father. If that's what you're going to do, you do it. You got to take my job. If that's what you're going to do, you're going to do it. Somebody in here need to resolve in their mind, if I never work again, I'm going to pray again. Me working, my value ain't in me working 9 to 5. My value is I got a daddy. If I'm sick for the rest of my life and I got to walk with this illness, so be it. I told y'all, these little White Walker fingers right here, Game of Thrones reference for some of y'all. That's for my millennials, Game of Thrones. If I got to walk with these little blue fingers and this little blue side of my body, I will. He's able. Somebody said he's able. I hope you wrote that down. He will. Hope you wrote that down. But even if he don't. And as there are 3 dimensions of faith, there are 3 tests of faith to bring you into these dimensions. Because verse 19 and 20 give us these 3 tests on top of these 3 dimensions. Because notice that after they had already declared in the atmosphere that I'm going to keep serving the Lord no matter what happens, no matter, watch this, devil, no matter what you do, God, no matter what you do, it don't make a difference. I ain't taking no survey. I've already determined I don't need to answer no questions. I'm going to be your child. And notice the response to that. Now watch this. Most of us would be like Jubilee. Woo! I stood in faith. God, you're so proud of me. Now I ain't got to go through nothing. That's what it's on. Because after saying that, Nebuchadnezzar said, oh yeah, turn up the furnace 7 times hotter. The first test of your faith to help you believe he's able is the fire got to be turned up on you. Oh, now you see the contrast. Is he able when the fire go up? The only way you can say he's able is, watch this, you got to say he's able while you're looking at them throw more logs in. He's able, huh? See, you saying he's able in faith. The devil going, okay, he's able, huh? See the bills piling up, don't you? You ain't been working 6 months. He able, is he? He able? He's still able? It's 9 months. Unemployment right now. He's still able? That's more, see, that's more fire. 7 times the number of completion. A perfect fire for you. Whatever your storm is, it's perfect for you. God sees it. He knows it. He understands. But so does the devil. The devil is coming at you what was perfect to break your marriage. He's able to heal our marriage. Is he? Is he? Okay, that's what the devil's going to say. And he's going to put the situations, the stress, the time, all that perfect for you. Second test for that dimension. I said, he will. He will. Notice, then Nebuchadnezzar said, not only will you turn it up 7 times, bind them with strong men. Strong men are a picture of those demonic interferences that come, principalities and powers, to bind the believer. To bind the child of God. Binding is a state of imprisonment, stuckedness. And in contrast to that, you got to believe he will. Watch this. You got to believe he will while you're bound. You don't believe he will when the binds snap off. The test is, can you believe he will while you're being locked up? Watch this. He's able. Turn up the fire. He's still able. He will. He will. Lock him up. He still will. Third dimension of faith, third test. But even if he not. Third test was, now cast them into the fire. Turn the fire up. Bind their hands. Cast them in. Can you believe, God, that even though they walking you in the flames, that God, even if he doesn't, you okay with burning? I told you the devil has a survey. You must have faith. The last thing you ought to write down is that God has an answer. You don't need to answer some of these questions. You wrestling too long and you're not getting to peace. You're not going to get the answer to all this stuff. You need to go to God is able. Somebody say he's able. He will. Even if he don't.